Alright, Mason Brock Henderson here, and this is NCIS Season 13, Episode 6 review. Alright, so, good episode. Definitely improved from the past couple that have been just a little too cliche, a little too script-y. I don't even know what the word is for that, but just, you feel like they're following a formula. It's like, oh, well, this happened, so this must have happened. Okay, so there are two main stories to talk about. First one is obviously the case that's going on. It's okay. I've seen it done before where, there's a serial killer going around and somebody's killed in the same way that the serial killer's been doing it, but it doesn't really fit with the serial killer's victim type. And then, sure enough, it's not actually the serial killer. So they start off with, this guy, he's reading a newspaper about the serial killings, and of course, oh, what a quinkadink, gets shot by the same serial killer. Unfortunately, though, this guy did not do enough to even try to disguise it like the serial killer, and also, unfortunately, for the same reason, the serial killer is caught, like, the next morning, and he was, like, nowhere near where the crime was being taken place. So it's almost instantly taken off the table that the serial killer did it. And I don't know, I've seen that happen so often where, somebody tries to imitate a serial killer and it's just almost instantly taken off the table. It's like, they want us to believe the serial killer did it, but it probably wasn't the serial killer. It's just always too obvious, in my opinion. I want to see one episode where somebody perfectly mimics a serial killer that's out there that's already killed a few victims, perfectly mimics it to where, oh wait, we have to go back and review because this person may have actually been killed by somebody else. But anyway, so they didn't use the right rifle. They used the same, like, you can tell somebody almost traced the same calling card that the serial killer left. And like I said, serial killer gets caught the next day and was nowhere near where the crime was taking place. So, come to find out, it all has to do with this incident that went down on one of the Navy ships where this girl had, or two women who were officers on the ship, had some nude photos taken of them and put online. And the victim, confessed to doing it. And so you kind of figure that's what this is about, because unlike a certain other show, Bones, that I also watch, oftentimes whenever they figure out something about the person, like some sort of sketchy history or something bad they did, most of the time that is what the cause of it is. It's not just something that happened and then you find out, oh, that has nothing to do with it at all. They were killed for a different reason completely. So, they find out that this guy admitted to putting the nude photos online. His fingerprints were on the camera, but he had talked to another guy about the truth coming out, and the guy wasn't really sure what it was about. Find out later that he admitted to it, but he didn't actually do it. And then I can't really remember why. I think it had something to do with his sister, like she was in a bit of trouble, and so he admitted to it so he could spend more time with her or something. I don't know, they didn't really explain that part very well. But basically he admitted to it, he hadn't done it. One of the women that was involved committed suicide, and he went to that girl's funeral. The other woman was there and wanted to hear an apology, and he started crying, saying it wasn't right. So she, attacked him, and so they think maybe it's her. It's not her. She didn't tell him that because, she didn't want to look like a suspect. So I've seen that one done so many times. It's like, why didn't you tell us you got in a fight with the victim? Well, because they were killed. And if I told you I got into a fight, well, then it would make me look. The fact that you didn't tell them makes you look even more suspicious. Idiot. Anyway, it's a frustration of mine. So finally figured out that this one guy that they had talked to, who was, I can't remember how he's connected with. He was a civilian now. He was on the ship and now was as a civilian. I'm not entirely sure why. I can't remember. A lot of this stuff that just kind of flew through, and I was like, just kind of blanked out for a second. But anyway, find out that he was on the ship and he did it because he didn't want to answer to women officers. He felt, I don't know, that same old men don't want to work under women cliche. But they end up catching him pretty obvious way. The commander meets with him and says, "Hey, NCIS is looking for you. I know that you took those photos and put them online. And I know that you killed Meyer." And of course he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's like, "Cut the crap. I respected what you did because women don't deserve to da da da." And the guy falls for it so easily. He's like, "All right, I already took care of everything. I hid the gun, wiped the prints, all that stuff." So they catch him very easily. Commander had a wire. And so that was it for that story. What made this a better episode was what was going on behind the scenes. First of all, the funny running storyline. There's Poison Oak, and McGee was talking about how Tony he already had it twice, and Tony made fun of him every time. Well, this time Tony catches it, and he wasn't even near the Poison Oak, and so that was just really funny seeing him slowly start to. You see him do this a couple times at the beginning, and then near the middle of the episode, you finally start to see him break out, and he's like, and then they bring in the guy that was supposed to meet with the victim because that's the only guy that Tony came into contact with that he could have possibly contracted the Poison Oak from, which is where the sniper. There was a bunch of Poison Oak around there. And you get this really funny line where he's like, "I'm itchy, I'm angry, and I have a gun." And so I love the humor in this show, really good humor. But the other really good storyline itself was Bishop and Jake. Jake, obviously off on an NSA mission, and Bishop frustrated, obviously, because she doesn't know where he is, wants to know where he is, she's struggling with it, and then come to find out there's a terrorist attack possibly about to happen, and then sure enough it does happen, and it's at this hotel that Jake was supposed to be staying at. And one of the things that the show has not done right in the past, that is done right now, keeping Delilah in the show. And if you don't know who Delilah is, it's McGee's girlfriend. She's come on the show occasionally. She's not a regular on the show. She just happens to come in a couple episodes, for the past couple seasons since they started dating in the show. She's been on like 3 episodes per season. And it really seemed like she was, at one point it seemed like they were going to break up and it was just going to be, because relationships has definitely not been a good part of this show. Tony, it seems like every single time it seems like he has a breakthrough with this one girl. The next episode, they're like, "What happened to so-and-so?" He's like, "We didn't work out." And you're just like, but last episode it was so touching. Like, you guys seemed like you really liked each other. And he's like, "Nah." So the fact that McGee and Delilah are still together is really nice. But their relationship also helps in this situation, and you get to see it because McGee is talking to Bishop, and she's like frustrated because she can't find anything about Jake and whether he's okay. And McGee sits down next to her like, "Look, most of the time when people say, 'I have no idea what you're going through,' they're lying. But in this case, I do know because I think it was 2 seasons ago. There was an attack where Seknav was, and Delilah was there too. And McGee had no idea whether she was okay, whether she was hurt, whether she was dead. And so he's been in that situation before. And so he gets to, you know, tell her how he was able to get, he's just able to give her some comforting words, having been in that situation before. You get to see Delilah talk with her about, how whenever you're in a relationship, you really just, you fight for every second to be with that other person. And, they do have an interesting story going on where they're moving in together. And of course, Delilah, because for some reason, I don't know if this is real life or if this is just a cliche in shows, but it seems like every single time two characters are moving in together, the woman always wants all the guy's stuff just thrown out. And of course, for McGee, he's got his gaming stuff. He's got some childhood stuff that he has with him. He's got all of this, nerdy stuff that he wants to bring. And of course, Delilah's like, no. And the sofas that he has, she's like, no, I don't like the color. And, I've seen this done before. So at first I was like, are they really going to do this whole thing? But then after the attack happens, it's like they kind of realize that they're being silly, that they're being petty about this. And Nikki's like, look, I'm sorry I argue with you about the couch. We don't have to have it. She's like, no, I'm sorry. I do. The couch is growing on me. We'll work through this. We'll figure this out. So it's nice to see them not go the same old cliche route where they just argue the whole episode and, try to get some jokes out of it. They actually did make it part of what was going on with Bishop and Jake. And, help them kind of realize we're being silly about this. This is petty stuff. We should just be happy that we have each other. So that was really nice. And, of course, in the end, they find out, Jake's okay. He got into a cab. They see him get into a cab away from the hotel explosion. And then find out that, he wasn't able to answer his calls. Never really confirmed why. So I wonder, ever since first met Jake in the show, they seem to have, they have a good relationship. They seem like they have a good relationship, but Jake's always seemed a little bit like, I don't know, he seemed a little bit shifty. And I've always wondered if they're ever going to take that. And of course, the main thing is that Gibbs trusts him, because Gibbs and Jake have like a talking relationship where Gibbs obviously trusts him somehow. So I feel like he's not a bad guy, or else Gibbs' radar would be going off, maybe. So I don't know. Maybe they'll talk more about why he got into a cab, why he wasn't answering her calls. Maybe they'll explain that later. Maybe he's having an affair. Maybe, he's secretly undercover doing something secretive. I don't know. But, overall, good episode. The case itself was a little bit, boring at times, but I do like the fact that they had another story going on in the background. But yeah, so good episode. 2 thumbs up in my opinion. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.